Hey everybody, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing good. I am doing just great. So I'm here with the iconic Lucille Chibson BB King wannabe, fake, clone, whatever you want to call it, guitar. Now, the iconic guitar got its name from basically BB King back in 1949 playing in, I guess, what they call, I don't know, a bar or whatever. And they used a steel drum with kerosene inside of it for heat inside this place. Well, a fight broke out over a woman, and somebody tipped over the drum, and the place started going up in flames. BB King ended up leaving his guitar in the place, and as the place started going up in smoke, he ran in to save his guitar. And basically, he started naming his guitars Lucille, as a reminder not to do that again. So originally, BB King would use a Gibson ES330 or an ES355. This one here is a semi-hollow body based off of a 335, and it's got a rosewood fretboard, plastic inlays, mahogany neck, and a maple body. Now, the body is supposed to be laminated sheets to form the body of this guitar, and then you have a nice block of wood that is in the center of this, giving it the semi-hollow name, considering it's not completely hollow. Now, the inlay work that they did on this guitar is pretty nice. They did a decent job. It's not like it's filled with, even around the guitars, the lettering on some of this, it's really good. They did a really close job with all the carving and didn't use a shitload of filler to fill in gaps. So that I gotta hand it to the Chinese as far as inlay work goes. Those guys really know what they're doing with some of this stuff. And then you will see, like I have in the past, a lot of guitars that have some fancy inlay work and a lot of filler around it to kind of fill in the gap between the fretboard and what type of inlay that they use. Now the headstock on this is binded all the way around, and they tried to make it look like BB King's original guitar, which they did a pretty damn close job to it. On the back, well, it's got a serial number and says made in USA. Yeah, nice, right? The neck thickness on this isn't too bad. I mean, at the first fret, it's 6/8 of an inch. And then at the 12th fret, it's an actual inch thickness. So it's not too bad, but this does feel like it's a little bit wider of a neck. Now, one of the gripes that a lot of people have with a lot of these Chinese guitars is basically the tuners, and I have to agree with them. The tuners on these guitars are crap. Some people will say, hey, they're not too bad. They still hold a tune, and it's not really worth replacing them. Now, I'm not going to really replace anything too much on this guitar but one thing, and I'll get to that in a little bit. The tuners on here are a fake Grover style tuner, and how you could tell that they're fake is, well, the lettering, the plating on it, like, I don't know if you can see this one here where the plating is really, 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 really pitted. And the lettering is different than what you would see on a normal Grover style tuner. The problem with the ones that I have right here is there is a gap between the gears. So I've got like probably 1/8 of an inch play on these tuners. You could feel the resistance once it hits one side of that gear to the other side of that gear as you turn them. And I don't think that's like going to work out as a quality functioning, staying in tune tuner. I think that's going to cause problems in the long run. The Now the nice thing on this, so, and I gotta say, they did it with another guitar that I've got. It's got a bone nut, which is kind of surprising because, you know, these guys, when they build these, they build them fast, they build them cheap, and they get them out the door. Going with a bone nut is kind of not a cheap way of, you know, getting these out. Now, with this guitar here, it's got a lot of detail work on it. And I've seen some with it, as far as the Chibson styles of these go, and some without it. This one here has it. And it's kind of funny, but in a way, gives it a little bit more detail. And that is the pickups themselves, all right? The pickups on this thing have a BB with a little bit of a scroll going around the edges of it. Now, it's not a decal, it's actually painted on. It's more like probably a silk screen than anything else. Same thing with the pickguard itself. This will wear off very easily, okay? So if you are going to use this guitar, replace a lot of things on there, but want to save the pickup, I'm sure you could take the covers off of these pickups pretty easy and put them on top of another set of pickups. Now, the holes for these are pretty much standard. I mean, Epiphone pickups, I've done it before several times. I ended up picking up a set of ProBuckers and installing them on a Les Paul style Chibson guitar. They fit right in. There's no problems, no issues with that. Now, like I said, this will wear off, and it'll wear off pretty quickly, especially like just playing the guitar normally, which, you know, if you don't care, that's fine, but I'm using these as wall art, so I kind of want to make them and look and still be functional as a guitar goes. But I'm not going to change out these pickups because of that. The pickups do work. They're not great quality, but, you know, what can I say? The pickguard on here, now, they should have did some type of a clear coating on top of this, just to protect what's on here. It's the same color as what's on the pickups, but if I take my fingernail, I could probably scratch this off right now. And one of the things that I'm surprised when, you know, peeling off the plastic on this, if they did have some type of plastic on this, it'd probably pull some of that writing off if they ended up putting the plastic back on after they painted it. So it's nice, but it's not going to be functional. It's going to end up wearing itself out if it's not protected. Now, I can take this off. I can clear coat it a few times. That'll keep it from wearing off and keep it really nice and sealed, just like the lettering is on the body. The body's been clear coated. They clear coated right over this writing. Now, you got your basic three-way switch. You have your volume for your bridge, your volume for your neck, bridge tone, neck tone, and then you have a 6 selector switch here, which number 1 is basically like 0. It's a pass-through. But you have different functions that this selector switch is going to do as far as giving you different types of tones coming out of the output jack. Another thing with this guitar too is some of the BB King guitars had a stereo and a mono output jack on it. This just has a single mono out. Fretwork on this is pretty nice. They did a decent job. So far, I've been a little bit impressed with the fretwork on these guitars that I've been getting because they haven't been sharp fret ends and they've been leveled pretty nicely. Nothing seems to be lifting as far as the frets go, although the fretboard themselves really need to be oiled. They are pretty damn dry. So I'm going to flip this over and kind of go through and show a few things. I already got the control cavity off of here because I wanted to see if one of the comments was true that, well, that 6-way selector switch that's on there is basically a pass-through and does nothing. And you know what? They were right. So, however, I am getting the parts to fix that selector switch. The nice thing about them putting the selector switch on it is it's a double stacked switch. That means that you could take both pickups and put them, wire them up to that switch and have both pickups as still an output. You have 2 volumes, 2 tones. Well, if you go with a single stack, well, you could pick one. Pick either the neck pickup or the bridge pickup, because that's all you're wiring to it. A double stack gives you dual outs, dual ins, so you're able to wire that up and then go to each tone and have both pickups running separately into that switch. That way they're not going to be like a chain signal going from one area out to another, then out to the output jack. You're going to have a double chain that's going to be 2 signals going into that switch to the output jack. So let's get inside of here. I've got my little camera over here that I've used in a lot of different applications, which is very, very nice. I love this thing. I've used this to go through the ductwork on my house, find any leaks, and make sure that the ductwork is clean. They give you a 16-foot long, flexible, but yet stays in position, whichever way you bend it, lighted, high definition, also has a side LED on it, and it also comes with a mirror and some shielding and stuff like that for getting into different areas for taking pictures. So I'm going to turn this on, and as you can see, I'm looking at one of the things on the wall over here. Now, I do have a light on here that is turned on, and I want to stick it inside this guitar to kind of look at a few things that's going on with the build of it and what you're going to get. Alright, so I'm going to take some pictures of the inside over here. First off, I'm going to slide this thing in, and you'll be able to see a little bit of what you're not supposed to see. So here we have a nice little gap. The center board and the top, or actually the back. And there's a side view going all the way in towards the front horn. There is that selector switch. Now here is the side view of the laminate, and I know you can't see it in this picture, but it's actually 2 pieces of wood that are laminated together. Here we see some possible mold. Let's get this thing in there right. So it's not very good quality work as far as what they've done, how they did it and stuff. And again, you get what you pay for. It is a Chibson guitar. The quality is not going to be in the build so much as anything goes with these. Now, you may get a nice paint job, or you may get a shitty paint job. This one here actually has a decent paint job on it. It's not bad, but they should have kind of like protected some things from getting damaged in the future or worn off, considering the pickups are metal with paint on them. It doesn't look like they scratched the surface of the metal to get paint to stick. The pick guard itself, well, again, they didn't scratch the surface for paint to stick. This is also going to wear out as well. The one thing that I've noticed with as far as these quality builds go, I would say quality builds, as far as these build quality goes, is they've kind of upped their game a little bit with some things that is making the build pretty good. Now, although this center board inside of here, it's got a little bit of gaps on one side with the only chamber that I can get into, they use glue, and you can kind of see glue in it. And also, what I've noticed as well is looking down the neck, a lot of these Chibson guitars would, because they're so vastly produced, okay, mass produced and very quickly, the headstocks, okay, so you'll have your neck that is straight, but your headstock is going to be like tilted on an angle a little bit because they end up shaving one side a little bit too much than the other side, giving that a look like the whole neck would be twisted by just looking at the headstock on it. But when you look at the neck portion, you could tell that, well, here's the neck, and you got the angle of your headstock, and then it's kind of tweaked to one side a little bit, or the other side. They've gotten better with that. I have noticed that on a lot of the earlier Chibsons that I ended up purchasing, including kit guitars, do the same thing. You'll see that the headstock is kind of like tilted a little bit on an angle as you look down the neck. And I'm not talking about the break angle of the neck itself. I'm talking about side to side like this. All right. Now, they got a heavy plexiglass plate over here, which is very, very thick, covering the truss rod. Now, I haven't removed the cover for the truss rod, but I have kind of looked at this thing a little bit, and it does have some relief in it. With a lot of these Chibson guitars as well, the quality of the plating that is on plated surfaces, like your bridge and your tail stop over here, if you use any type of a rubbing compound or polish, and you kind of polish them out a little bit, be prepared to be replacing what's going to happen. The plating will end up coming off, and what's underneath it, sometimes you might see some brass or copper, sometimes you don't. In a lot of cases, you don't see any of that copper that's underneath here, and it's just pleated over, whatever the metal that these things are made. And again, this has got one of those bridges on there that's got the wire going across, which I really, really, really don't care for. One thing is, let's see here. I want to check something here to see if they did this right or wrong, if they're about the same. And all right, these bridges are not directional. If you ever look at some of the tunematic bridges, and I've noticed with a lot of them, especially the aftermarket ones, there's one way to put them on. You'll notice that the low E notch and the saddle will be a little bit bigger than the notch on the high E will be a lot smaller for those strings. So some people would say, well, it doesn't really matter which way you put it on as far as the intonated screws go. It can go on the other way, go on the other. Actually, there is a right and a wrong way. Like I said, some of these are keyed to where the string fits in the larger notch saddle compared to the smaller notch saddle. All right, so until my parts come in for this switch over here, because that's the only thing that I'm going to end up fixing on this, so it'll be a functioning switch. Pickups are staying, strings I'll replace, tuners on this thing here, well, I'll have to kind of see and make a decision later on when I start to actually, get this thing set up the way I want it and how I want it, to make sure that these tuners are going to stay in tune, they're not going to slip on me, and if this little 1/8 of an inch play that's in the tuner keys is going to be a big deal or not. I don't think it's going to be, but again, as long as it stays in tune, that's fine. And this will be, again, a wall hanger, but I want it to be a functional wall hanger. This, I don't have to do nothing besides basically get this dust and crap off of it, because it's got a lot of dust on it. The finish is pretty good. It's not too bad, and I wouldn't even mind if the finish was a little bit on the relic side as far as this guitar goes. But as is, it's just fine for me. All right, you guys take it easy. Have a good one, and I will catch up with you all later.